Heisman contenders, March Madness Cinderellas, Olympic-level talent. The energy of college athletics is unmatched. And every week, we highlight the most incredible performances, the biggest upsets, and the breakout stars that will become the next generation of professional legends. If it's trending, if it's dominating the headlines, it is officially noteworthy. Get ready for your all-access pass to the collegiate sports world. Welcome to Noteworthy in the NCAA, brought to you by the Empty the Bench Network. Now, let's join your host, Will Charlton.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Noteworthy in the NCAA here on the ETB Network. Happy to have you joining us on this Monday afternoon, early evening, wherever it may be that you are watching. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to all of our Empty the Bench Network shows on YouTube. Follow us across social media at ETB Network on TikTok, X/Twitter, Instagram, and then make sure to follow the show that I'm a part of, Forever Power 5, on Instagram and X/Twitter at FP5ETB, and then on TikTok at Forever Power 5, no caps or spaces. You can follow me on Twitter at Will Charlton H13, and then on TikTok and Instagram at Will Charlton TV. And all of our shows on the Empty the Bench Network are on this channel below, youtube.com/ETB Network. So, as we continue to kind of move forward into February, late February, March is only getting closer and closer, and the college basketball world is only heating up, and each week matters more and more, and the numbers start really kind of figuring themselves out of which teams are going to be the ones to really watch out for, which teams are going to be the ones that people pick to go far in the tournaments. And we're getting to that time of year. We're getting to the best time of the year. It's right around the corner, and man, oh man, let me tell you, I cannot wait for March. I always anticipate March like crazy every single year. March is my favorite month of the year. I have a few personal biases toward March, but it's March Madness, and just all the incredible basketball that happens in March is what makes it my favorite month of the year. And we are less than 4 weeks away from Selection Sunday. Yesterday marked officially 1 month until we have a field of 68. And man, we're getting closer and closer and closer each time I hop on one of these podcasts and talk to you guys about college sports. But before we get into college basketball, there was a huge topic of conversation that took place in college football. And I remember how we talked about North Dakota State joining the Mountain West last week. Well, another FCS team is making the jump to the FBS. The Sacramento State Hornets are joining the Mid-American Conference. Yes, Sacramento, California is joining the Mid-American Conference. This conference consists of teams in Ohio, Michigan, no longer Illinois because Northern Illinois is going to the Mountain West too, Massachusetts, New York, and those might be the only 4 states now. Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, New York, Massachusetts, and I'm blanking out if there's a team in Pennsylvania from the MAC. I don't think so. Yeah, so a team from Sacramento, California will be playing a conference game in Muncie, Indiana, or Kalamazoo, Michigan, or Ypsilanti, Michigan, or Bowling Green, Ohio, or where's UMass? Is Cambridge? Is Cambridge where UMass is? I'm pretty sure it's in Amherst, right? Yeah, it's in Amherst, not Cambridge. So Amherst, Massachusetts, whatever it may be. This is so stupid. This is unbelievably stupid. Like, what are we doing here? Sacramento State in California is joining the Mid-American Conference. What are we doing? I mean, this is like seriously one of the most mind-boggling moves possible. They can't join the Mountain West, which would make so much more sense. They can't join the Pac-12 because they had to make the jump up to the FBS. This is not going to be sustainable. I mean, this is not for a school as small as Sacramento State, who's been trying to get to the FBS level for a long time. This is not sustainable. Like, maybe this is a move so that they can be in the FBS for a few years and then try to get to the Pac-12 or the Mountain West, because this is not going to work. Like, Sacramento State playing in the MAC is not going to work. I don't know how, I don't know what took place behind the scenes for this to happen this way, but the fact that we have a team now going from California to play every game away from home in the Midwest or the Northeast a little bit, there is nothing about this that makes any sense whatsoever. And I believe Sacramento State's paying like $20 million total to make this move. It's like they were just playing in the Big Sky Conference in the FCS, right? So they were playing UC Davis, who was like only 10 minutes away from them in California, Montana State, Eastern Washington, Northern Colorado, Northern Arizona. Who else were they playing? Portland State. Just a handful of schools that regionally made sense, right? Like the Big Sky Conference is pretty widespread across like the Western United States a little bit. But this is like more mind-boggling than the Pacific schools being in the Big Ten. Or this is even more I don't know. I want to go so far to say it's more mind-boggling than Cal and Stanford being in the Atlantic Coast Conference. But this just is such a head-scratcher. I mean, Sacramento State is like, they're decent at football. This is only in football, by the way. They're a football-only member in the MAC. Football only. So it's not going to be like any other sport. It's only football. Just like North Dakota State, only football in the Mountain West. This is just like, I can't wrap my head around this, because Sacramento State now is going to be traveling at least 6 times to the Midwest per year. And they didn't leave their time zone. I mean, they didn't leave like their typical time zone, really. I mean, they jumped like to Mountain Time to play games in the Big Sky. But now they're going to be like going like 2,000 miles per game on the road. There is not one single team that is regionally close to them. Like, at least in like when you look at the Big Ten, for instance, or the ACC, like you got Cal and Stanford. They're really close to each other. USC, UCLA, they're in the same city. Oregon, Washington, they're arch rivals. Sacramento State has no team that is remotely close to them in the MAC. Not one. So that's the biggest headline of the of what's going on in college football right now. This became official, I believe it was yesterday or the day before. And when I saw this, I just laughed. I was like, there is no way. It is seriously just hilarious how this has come about. But there's your big headline of the day in college football. Sacramento State joining the Mid-American Conference. And now, so let's get to some college basketball. This just broke. And to give you guys some context behind it, Kansas State is one of the worst teams in the Power 5 level of college basketball this season. So they are currently tied for the worst record in the Big 12. They are 1-11, tied with Utah for the worst conference record. They are 10-15 overall. They have lost 6 straight games. And so they decided to part ways with head coach Jerome Tang. And let's just go back, what was it, 3 years ago? 3 years ago now. Kansas State is playing in the Elite Eight. They have this just remarkable fun run in March Madness, because I watched every time they played. They had a really tough game in the round of 32, and then they barely beat Michigan. Where I can't remember who it was, but they beat Michigan State, and they had like an accidental like play call where Marquise Noel lobbed it up to. I can't remember who he lobbed it up to, but I'm blanking on his name. I know who it is, but I'm blanking on his name. But that Kansas State team was like the darling of the tournament in a sense, because they were like one of the highest seeds remaining at that point, because they were a 3 seed, I believe. And they lost to Florida Atlantic, that 9 seed that made it to the Final Four that year. And that team was rolling. I mean, Marquise Noel was one of the most fun guys to watch in March that year, because he just put on performance after performance after performance, and he just was not afraid to take any shots, and a lot of them would fall. Like, Marquise Noel was so much fun to watch. One of the biggest stories of the tournament for sure. 3 years later, they have a bad year last year too. They have a pretty subpar year, I'll say. And then last year, going into this year, things are looking a little bleak. I mean, just looking at like their most recent schedule, for instance, they played Houston on the road, actually pretty tough. They only lost by 14 to Houston on the road. But then the game before that at home, where that arena in Manhattan has a nickname, the Octagon of Doom, because it used to be a place that people hated to play. That place was barely even a third full. And they lose by 29 at home to Cincinnati. That was on Wednesday night. To give you some context, Cincinnati is 6-7 in the Big 12, and that currently has them at, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th place. So they lost to the 10th place team by 29 at home. And then Jerome Tang came out afterwards, after the game, and said he's embarrassed for the school. These guys should be embarrassed to wear this jersey, yada, yada, yada. And I think that was pretty much the tipping point for the university to say that this guy's got to go. So it's been a terrible year for Kansas State, but this is not shocking. It's just pretty interesting that it happened now rather than after the season ends, because they only have probably 5 or 6 games left anyway. So I think it just kind of was like the point where they were just kind of sick of dealing with him, and it's time for him to go. But man, that Jerome Tang had such a fun team just 3 years ago. Just 3 years ago, and now Kansas State has just been on an absolute decline. And, you know, like, the thing about Kansas State, too, it's they were always a really good team when, like, Bruce Weber was their coach, and I wouldn't say real good team. They're always solid. They're always, like, solid in the Big 12. They had a few really good years, and then, obviously, 3 years ago, they had that really fun run to the Elite Eight, March Madness. But, yeah, it's kind of a shame that that Kansas State has had this fall off, because it shows like how dynamic the sport can be. It does. So Jerome Tang out as the head coach of Kansas State. So let's stay on the topic of college basketball, and let's kind of go over some games, some really significant games that took place over this past week. We're going to start on Monday night, and what was just an absolutely incredible game at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. Arizona lost its first game of the season to Kansas on Monday night last week. 82-78, the Jayhawks won. Arizona was up by double figures in the second half, and then Kansas from there took over. And get this, they did it without Darren Peterson too. So Kansas beat Arizona without Darren Peterson. That was a phenomenal game. Flory Badunga had one of the best games, I think, of his career. I mean, he had 23 points, and I believe he had like a handful of rebounds too. So that was a huge win for Kansas. I kind of said last week that I thought Kansas was going to win that game. I didn't know Peterson was not going to play. If I knew Peterson was not going to play, there's no chance I would have picked Kansas to win that game. But they still find a way to take down mighty Arizona, who lost its first game of the year at Fog Allen Fieldhouse that night. Then on Tuesday night, Purdue goes into Lincoln and beats Nebraska. So the Boilermakers now maybe finding their stride a little bit. They had a huge win in overtime against Nebraska, which, if you guys saw how that game ended, it was pretty interesting. So Purdue is up 1, and Nebraska's inbound the ball to try and, get it like a last-second shot to win the game. Jamarcus Lawrence slips on the floor and turns the ball over. Like, literally, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if you guys watched the ending of that game or not, but Jamarcus Lawrence slipped and Purdue just got the ball and got fouled, and then they win by 3. So I saw a bunch of like tweets that were saying student managers are punching the air right now. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, so pretty wild ending to that game. Big win for Purdue, who has now won, was it 4 straight games, I believe, after their little 3-game skid? Yep, 4 straight. And they got a huge game that we're going to preview coming up in a little bit here. Also on Tuesday night, and this one kind of hurts me to say, but one of the most intriguing teams in the country, Wisconsin right now, went into Champaign, Illinois, and beat the Fighting Illini 92-90 in overtime, led behind just phenomenal performances by Nick Boyd and John Blackwell. Wisconsin has one of the most unique resumes in the country. They are a 17-8 team, but have top 10 wins at Michigan, at Illinois, and versus Michigan State. Wisconsin arguably has the best resume in the country. I mean, Wisconsin, like those 2 wins alone at Illinois and at Michigan, those might be the best 2 wins in the country a team can have right now. Seriously, because they're Michigan's only loss, and Illinois does not lose at home very often at all. So, especially under Brad Underwood right now. So, huge win for Wisconsin, who got back in the AP rankings this week. They're number 24 this week, and we'll get into the AP poll in a little bit here after we keep recapping the past week of college basketball. Also, how about TCU taking down Iowa State at home on Tuesday night? TCU beats Iowa State 62-55. TCU is a really interesting team too, because they have beat Florida and Wisconsin, but lost their very first game to New Orleans. So TCU's a pretty head-scratching team. And now, obviously, they just beat Iowa State, too. So TCU is a really odd team this year. And so I'm going to switch over to Wednesday night now. Michigan beat Northwestern, but this was an interesting game because Northwestern was up by 16 the second half. So Michigan wins by 12 in the end, but Northwestern was beating Michigan at home by 16. Pretty crazy. But yeah, it doesn't matter because Michigan ended up winning the game. Nothing really else to report on Wednesday. Nothing really on Thursday. Friday night, like I said, Wisconsin beat Michigan State. So the Badgers win that game by 21. Nick Boyd had a game-high 29. Wisconsin playing some of the best ball in the country right now, you really could argue. And Michigan State, just a really confusing team as well, because they don't really play well on the road. It just seems like they really don't play well on the road, because they've lost to Minnesota on the road. Now, Minnesota is not great. That's being generous. And then they lose by 21 to Wisconsin on the road. Just really weird team. Really weird teams. They got good wins. I mean, they beat North Carolina. They beat Illinois. Just really, really weird team Michigan State is. So that was the best game on Friday night. And then shout out to, I keep shouting them out every week, but Miami University, man. I mean, the Red Hawks are just, they're still undefeated. I believe it's 25-0 now for the now ranked number 22 team in the country. And the Red Hawks, I mean, they take down rival Ohio 90-74 on Friday night. This is a real exciting team. I mean, this is a real fun team. The numbers really don't love them that much because they haven't played anybody. But man, they just keep finding ways to win every game. So Miami, if Miami wins the MAC, I mean, it's pretty exciting to see what this team can do. And then also St. Louis, man. I mean, the Billikens just keep on winning games too. They beat Loyola Chicago on Friday night, 86-59 on the road. St. Louis is going to be a nightmare in the second round for a 2-seed or a 3-seed. I'm telling you right now, St. Louis is like kind of that one of that. They remind me of that Final Four Loyola team from 2018, the St. Louis squad. So the Billikens are going to be a team to really watch out for in your brackets. They're going to be picked. They're going to be picked for some upsets. A lot of brackets are going to pick them for upsets. And then on Saturday, we just had an insane slate. I think the story of the day personally was Texas Tech going into Tucson and winning in overtime 78-75. JT Toppin, man. This Texas Tech team is playing phenomenal right now. And they have wins against Duke and at Arizona. So I was talking about Wisconsin. I think Texas Tech has the 2 best wins in the country because you beat Arizona on the road and you beat Duke on a neutral floor. I think those are the 2 best wins in the country. And Texas Tech is, when they're healthy, when Christian Anderson's playing, this is a dangerous, dangerous team. I look at this Texas Tech squad and I think, man, they're probably going to be a 3 or a 4 seed. And that's a team, if they're a 4 seed, that really could give a 1 seed some problems in the Sweet 16. But they're not impossible to beat either. They've had some slip ups. They lost to UCF on the road. There was another questionable loss they had on their schedule. I'm going to take a look at this now. They got killed by Purdue early on in the season. They lost to Arkansas. That's right. I think I was thinking of the 27 or the 30-point loss to Purdue. That's what I was thinking of. So they're 19-6, but they have now wins against Duke, who only has 2 losses, in Arizona. It's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good. They have wins over the current number 1 and number 3 teams, the current number 3 and number 4 teams in the country, then number 1 Arizona. Duke beat Clemson by 13 at home. Iowa State beats Kansas to end the Kansas winning streak. Iowa State won that game at home 74-56, and Darren Peterson did play in this game, but only had 10 points. Tough showing for Kansas in that game. They were playing really well too. So Iowa State just completely shut them down in Ames. Big win for the Cyclones there. Really interesting week for Iowa State though, because they lose to TCU on the road and then follow that up with an 18-point win against Kansas at home. Pretty interesting week there for the Cyclones. Let's see what else here. Florida beats Kentucky in what was a ranked matchup. Oh, yeah, St. John's Providence. This game was bizarre because you had that huge brawl during the game. I mean, like a handful of guys got ejected. Huge fight between these 2 teams during that game. One of the guys from Providence has been suspended for 3 games. And you know what's kind of ironic? This happened to Bryce Hopkins of St. John's. He was playing for Providence before he came to St. John's. So he transferred from, I'm pretty sure I'm thinking of the right guy. Yeah, he played for Providence for 3 years before transferring to St. John's, and he was the one that got fouled that started it all. So, pretty crazy that that's what initiated all, and that a former Providence player was the main part of that brawl. So yeah, just that was pretty wild. UConn hangs on at home against Georgetown by 4. UConn's an interesting team. I don't know if they don't have the same moxie that they had when they won national championships back-to-back a few years ago, but they're still going to be a team that could be right there. It just depends on their guard play. It really does. Depends how Solo Ball and Silas Demery are able to kind of take over the show for them. And Alex Caravan, who's just a proven winner. So that's that. And then on Sunday, I'm only going to say this because it feels like a very important storyline right now to watch out for the rest of the year. Kylan Boswell is back for Illinois. And oh my goodness, I mean, if you watch this game, Illinois looked like a completely different version of itself than it did on Tuesday night without Boswell. Illinois held a red-hot Indiana team to 51 points. Illinois has been known to be this really good offensive team, but not really be great on the defensive end. Illinois held Indiana to 51 points and didn't even play that well in the game offensively and still won by 20. Davin Mirkovic leads the way with 25 points for the Illini. and just a dominant performance at home for Illinois, who needed a win badly it was pretty much a must win for Illinois, because I wouldn't say it's a must win, but like it's a win that you kind of had to get, it feels like. So big win for the Illini there. Kylan Boswell, the heart and soul of the Illini team, is back and recovering from that hand injury well, as the Illini head into a West Coast swing this week against USC on Wednesday and UCLA on Saturday. And let's get into the new AP poll here. Before we get into some games to watch, we'll do this quickly because we're running out of time here on the show. I know for a fact I just had it up here. There we go. Michigan now the new number one. Arizona slides down to 4 after back-to-back losses this week, now sitting at 23-2. Houston up to 2, Duke at number 3. So on Saturday, there will be a doubleheader between number 1 and number 3. Michigan plays Duke on a neutral floor in Washington, D.C. And then Arizona, is it Arizona at Houston or is it Houston at Arizona? Got to find that out here. It is Arizona at Houston. So, one thing, so UConn is up to 5. That's probably about right. Iowa State going from 5 to 6 is like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense because right behind them is then Purdue. I still think that, I mean, you have to do that because Iowa State did beat Purdue by a lot at Mackey, so I get that. Kansas at 8 is one I don't like. I don't like Kansas at 8 because they don't even have 20 wins yet. And sure, they're playing really good, but they just got crushed by Iowa State on Saturday. I don't think they're a top 10 team. I would have kept Illinois at 8 personally, and then have Kansas at 10. I think Illinois and Kansas should be flipped. Illinois only lost that game to Wisconsin because Andrei Stojakovic and Kylan Boswell were out. And Keaton Wadler could only guard one of two of John Blackwell or Nick Boyd. If both those guys are healthy against Wisconsin, Illinois wins that game by double digits because Kylan Boswell would have locked up John Blackwell or Nick Boyd. Neither of them would have had nearly the night they did if Boswell was playing. And Stojakovic is arguably the second best on-ball defender on that team. So Illinois was without its 2 best on-ball defenders against Wisconsin. I think it's unfair to punish Illinois for a loss like that. I get it because I'm sure some AP voters think oh, they lost to Wisconsin. That's not a good loss at home. Does it hurt the resume? Yes, but I don't know. I wouldn't have dropped Illinois. I think Kansas at 8 is a bit of a stretch because they're not even a 21 team yet. What are they, 19-6? Yeah, I think they're 19-6. So that's what I'm thinking. I flip-flop. Gonzaga is still too high at 11. I think Gonzaga. I would rank these teams ahead. I would rank Florida at 12 ahead of Gonzaga. I would rank Texas Tech at 13 ahead of Gonzaga. I'd rank Virginia at 14 ahead of Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga should be 14. I think Gonzaga should be number 14. Michigan State at 15. That's fine. North Carolina 16. St. John's 17. St. Louis 18. They stay put there. Vanderbilt 19. Arkansas 20. Louisville 21. Miami, Ohio 22. BYU 23, and then Wisconsin and Alabama 24-25. The rest of it looks pretty good to me. I think, like I said, I think Gonzaga is a little too high, and I think Illinois and Kansas should be flip-flop. So I think it should be. But then, I mean, if you put Purdue right ahead of Illinois, then it's like, well, who won that game head-to-head in Purdue's court? But Purdue's arguably playing better basketball right now than Illinois is. But after what happened on yesterday for Illinois, it's kind of hard to say that that's for sure the case. So yeah, now let's finish up the show by getting into some games to watch and my picks for this week. Only have a couple minutes here. We're starting tonight in which I'm blanking out where. Okay, so yeah, we're starting tonight in the Hilton Coliseum, Houston at Iowa State. That's 7 p.m. Well, 9 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Mountain Time for me. Houston at Iowa State in Ames. I'm going to roll with the Cyclones to win this game at home tonight. This should be a really fun game. It's going to be a back and forth battle. Defensive, I'm expecting it to be low scoring. That's the reason the over-under set at 135.5. I'm going Iowa State tonight to win this game at home. Iowa State rarely ever loses in Hilton Coliseum, so I'm going to roll with the Cyclones to get that job done against Houston tonight. Tomorrow night, the game of the day is definitely Michigan at Purdue. Michigan's favored by 2.5 points on the road. This is a tricky one because it is at 6:30 Eastern tomorrow night, by the way, on Peacock. Also NBC Sports Network if you have that as well. I'm going to say the Boilermakers win this game. I'm going to say the Boilermakers win this game at home. I like Purdue to beat Michigan. I think Purdue hands Michigan its second loss of the year. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was a video that came out of Yaxel Lendeborg basically saying F Purdue and in a video and whatnot. That is bad look and he was like throwing up the middle finger and whatnot. Bad look for Yaxel Lendeborg. It's like surfacing all over Twitter right now. So I think Purdue is going to use that as bulletin board material. I think Purdue is going to upset Michigan at home tomorrow night to hand Michigan its second loss of the year. Let's see. Anything else really noteworthy to write down? Nope. Wednesday night. Let's see if there's anything on Wednesday night. Arkansas at Alabama. That's a ranked matchup. I'm going to go with Arkansas to win that game in Tuscaloosa. Get a road win for John Calipari and company. I'm not really going to do a deep dive into that one because it's 20-25. BYU at Arizona. So a rematch of what was a really fun game a couple Mondays ago. I'm still going to roll with the Wildcats to win that one. I think they get the season sweep of BYU. They were able to beat them in Provo. I don't see why they can't beat them again at the McHale Center in Tucson. So I'm going to go with Arizona to beat BYU once again. And that's the main couple significant games there on Wednesday night. Usually there's nothing really too special on Thursdays this time of year. And there is not this week. Friday night, Indiana at Purdue in a rematch at Mackey Arena. Purdue will win that one this time. I'm not going to even really dive into that one that much because we're running out of time here. And then Saturday, obviously lots of great games. Once again, trying to find the ranked matchups here. Arizona at Houston. This one really depends on what's going on with Koa Pete for Arizona. I don't know how hurt he is, but I just have a really hard time thinking Houston's going to go 0-2 in a week. So give me the Cougars to win this game at home against Arizona. Houston will be favored. That place will be rocking, and that's going to be a raucous environment on Saturday in Houston, Texas. So give me the Cougars to beat the Wildcats there on Saturday between number 2 and number 4. Michigan versus Duke on a neutral court in Washington, D.C. That game is going to be unreal. I'm going to roll with Michigan in this one. I'm going to say Michigan wins that game against Duke. I think I like the way Michigan kind of matches up against Duke better. And I think that in the end, Michigan's going to have a little too much more talent than Duke does. Both teams are phenomenal. Saturday could be a Final Four preview. Really, it really could be. In an alternate universe, it already is because it's 1 versus 3 and 2 versus 4. But yeah, I'm going to roll with Michigan to beat Duke on Saturday. I think that game's going to be. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think it's going to be a high scoring game, and it might be a track meet. Like Michigan might win like 87-83. It might be that kind of game. It really might be. So I'm going to say the Wolverines win a close one there on Saturday night. That should be a lot of fun. Illinois at UCLA. That's an interesting one too, but I'm going to roll with my Illini. I think they're going to win both games out west this week to make that game against Michigan next Friday mean a lot for the Big Ten standings. And then we wrap it up with Iowa State at BYU. I just don't think you know what? No, I'm going to say, Yeah, BYU doesn't have Richie Saunders anymore, though. Richie Saunders is out for the year, torn ACL. I'm going to say the Cyclones have a 2-0 week. Couple rank wins for the Cyclones this week. I'm going to say they beat BYU on the road Saturday night. And then anything important to watch out for on Sunday? Let's see. Nope. So that is it then. So yeah, that's going to do it for our show today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Noteworthy in the NCAA. Once again, I'm Will Charlton, and make sure to come back next Monday to keep on following along with the college basketball season, and we will see you then. Thanks for tuning in today.